Hey there folks, TornadoTwins here with another part of this series on how to make your own video game. And as you can see, I have changed the resolution of my computer so that it might be easier to follow along if things are a little bit bigger instead of so small. And there's a couple of other things that I've done also. I have replaced the worm with the new worm character that was available for download in the last video. Do not be mistaken though, replacing that worm character was not very easy. It was actually pretty hard. I actually went in and separated all the body parts from each other instead of importing them all at once, and then used the Cinema 4D to actually set the rotation of the characters right and then re-import them again to make them work in the game. So it was a little bit of a hassle, but eventually it worked out. So there's that, and also I have replaced the turret with a new model made by my YouTube friend Diffuse, and here's a link about to his channel, and if you click the link in the info section you can download this new cannon model that he's made for us. It's a tad high poly, but it's okay. I mean, our game that we're making is small, and it looks a lot better than the ugly Joker that I made, so for that matter I think it fits the mood of this game pretty nicely. Now I've made some materials on this, and basically a shiny diffuse is very simple to make. Just make a new material and then click specular from the shader drop down menu, and then change the colors to a sort of almost black and then a white for the specular, and it gives you this nice little glow on the turret, and as I rotate it rotates towards the light also. So importing the turret is also a little challenging. When you import it, make sure it faces in the right direction, the Z-axis, and as you can see when I switch local to global, it is looking into the Z-axis only on the global settings and not at the local, because this model was made in 3D Studio Max, and importing models from 3D Studio Max also gives you a little bit of a upside down model, so you have to fix that inside of your game engine, whatever game engine that is. In this case, of course, Unity 3D. Now let's move on in this tutorial and let me show you how to make a terrain. I have a floor here, and let me just delete it by going edit and then delete. And now let me replace the floor with a terrain. Now that's pretty easy to do. Let me clean up my hierarchy here a little bit, and just go to terrain and then create terrain. Now this creates a default terrain for you, which is huge. Look at this. Is way too big for our purposes. So to change the size of this terrain, you can go terrain and then set resolution, and then you can set the width to 200 instead of 2000, and then the length also. And now if I hit set resolution, it recalculates the terrain and it's a lot smaller. Still pretty big, so let's move it so that it is in the center of our level here. You can use the move handle, and as you can see, the pivot point is all the way towards the left, which is always a little weird with terrains, but that's just the way it works. Alright, now it's a little too high, so let me change that a little bit. Just something like this. Yeah, that should do it. Let me run my game, see if my character is falling through the floor or not. Nah, everything still works. Okay, and the cannon is shooting, the worm is rotating, and my computer is lagging like crazy because of the recording software. So I guess it works great. Alright, next it is time to add some textures to start painting our terrain, and then some grass and whatnot. Now I made some mud in Filter Forge. It was generated pretty smoothly, pretty fast, as well as in normal maps. Very high quality textures. I really like that Filter Forge stuff. If you haven't gotten it yet, go back to the last video and get your discount. And I'm going to add these textures to our terrain. So to do that, I'm going to select the terrain in the hierarchy, and then go to the brush where it allows you to add textures. So let me just click add texture under edit texture button, and then it's allowing you to select the texture here. So from here on I can select the texture that I need, and in this case I'm looking for the rocky field one. And once I select it, I get a little error, and I cannot click the add button because it says splat texture size must be power of 2. Now this is a little thing you have to know about terrains. Terrains don't support, for example, shaders, so there's no normal maps or reflection coming off of terrain textures. Also, the textures that you use on terrains need to be the power of 2. So with the power of 2, I mean 2 by 2 is 4, 2 by 2 by 2 is, and I really stink at math, but anyway, what it means is your texture has to be either 2 by 2, 4 by 4, 8 by 8, 16 by 16, 32 by 32, 128, 512, and so on. If it's not, then the graphics card is probably not going to pull it off. So that's why even in the old days when I started with game design, every single texture, even for characters, had to be powers of 2. So to change that, let me just cancel out here and then look at my texture here and then open it with Photoshop. And I was working on another texture there. And let me just resize it, image, and then image size. It's just a tad too big. It's 600 by 600. That needs to be 512 by 512. Perfect. Let me just save it. It will still tile because it has been just scaled at the same proportions. Let me go back to Unity. And then Rocky Field will be re-imported. Perfect. And now we see 512 by 512. So if I go back to my terrain, add the texture, it should work now. So let me see, where is it? Rocky Field. Perfect. Let's add that one. And as you can see, I now have a Rocky Field. Very nice looking. Maybe a little big. I could change that, of course, later. But let's just keep going just for the sake of the tutorial. Let's add some grass to this one as well. Let's go back to our terrain and add another texture. As you can see, the first texture you add will be spanned over the terrain by default, so you don't have to paint that one, but the first texture you use is replacing the default diffuse that is on there, so that's what it does. Now let's select the grass texture here. Alright, so now you can select which texture you want to paint with, and of course if you select the same one as the one that's already on there, nothing happens when I draw. So let me use the grass texture here. Now there's one thing you really need to note here, is that the brush size, opacity, and strength in Unity are set ridiculously high. I don't know why these controls are made so sensitive, probably because the same reason why the terrain is so big. But if you want to really do some precise work, I just take all these three down to start off with and then start painting. Okay, so the opacity here, it's not very visible, so let's up that a little bit. Let's make our brush size a little big. So I always work from small to bigger. Now as you can see, the grass starts coming up already. So let me add a little bit more here, and then also a little bit more strength. So now when I start painting, you can see some green variations already on the grass. Let me up it just a little more, because we don't, at some point we don't want to see the other texture at all anymore. Alright, so it's still looking pretty bad here because I'm being pretty radical with the painting here. And generally I usually use a Wacom tablet for this. Right now I'm using my mouse, but I'm really much more of a fan of when I'm painting in 3D, I'm using different tools. Alright, so I just painted the grass really high, so let me paint another lower layer and then an even lower layer of grass so that it slowly fades out. Alright, it will take me some time to get this right, but let's just keep going. If I play my game now, you can see that, you know, we have some grass going on around the temple, and then the rest is dirt. Alright, so let's get some variation going into our terrain. What we can also do other than painting textures, and in fact let me just scale the temple down just a little bit so that it looks better. Alright, that'll work. Move it. Yeah. Okay, so go back into our terrain, and then there is the first one is for lowering or raising up mountains in your terrain. Now you've probably already played with this. Let me make the brush size a little bigger, the opacity smaller, and then as soon as I draw, you can see it starts creating hills.